You do not direct artillery from the air in an unarmed plane. That was the rule. It existed for a reason. For decades, artillery spotting meant balloons, towers, or forward observers crawling through mud with field phones. Airplanes were for bombing, strafing, or reconnaissance, fast, loud, and obvious. If you flew low and slow over the battlefield, you died. Especially against an enemy who believed in concealment, jungle cover, and ambush as sacred doctrine. The Imperial Japanese Army believed this rule was ironclad. Their doctrine said artillery observers must be on the ground. Their intelligence said American aircraft were too valuable, too vulnerable, and too centralized to be wasted hovering over jungle canopies. So when Japanese batteries opened fire in the Pacific, on Guadalcanal, New Guinea, and later the Philippines, they assumed they were safe once they disappeared beneath palm fronds and camouflage nets. They were wrong. Because in 1942, a handful of American pilots climbed into fabric-covered liaison planes, so light you could push them by hand, and broke the rule completely. And one of them was flying directly toward Japanese artillery, without a single weapon on board. You are 24 years old. Your name is Bob White. You are not a fighter ace. You do not fly a bomber. You do not even carry a gun. You fly the L-4 Grasshopper, a high-wing liaison aircraft built from a civilian Piper Cub. It weighs barely 1,100 pounds fully loaded. Its cruising speed is 85 miles per hour. Its cockpit is enclosed by thin plexiglass. The fuselage is fabric stretched over a metal frame. A rifle round will punch straight through it. Your training is unusual. You are taught to land on roads, beaches, clearings, even dry riverbeds. You learn to fly at treetop level. You learn how to read maps while bouncing through tropical turbulence. Most importantly, you learn how to talk to artillery batteries, infantry commanders, and fire direction centers, using a radio that works only when it feels like it. In 1942, the Pacific War is going badly. The Japanese have taken the Philippines. They dominate Southeast Asia. Their artillery is deadly, accurate, and concealed. On islands like Guadalcanal and in the jungles of New Guinea, Japanese gunners fire, relocate, and vanish. American Marines and soldiers take shellfire without ever seeing the guns that kill them. The stakes are enormous. Artillery decides jungle battles. Whoever controls indirect fire controls movement, supply, and morale. If American forces cannot locate Japanese guns, they cannot advance. They cannot hold airfields. They cannot break the perimeter. And that is why you are here, standing on a muddy strip of pierced steel planking, climbing into an airplane that should not exist in a modern war. Your job is simple to describe and nearly impossible to survive. You must find hidden Japanese artillery, and tell American guns exactly where to destroy it. The engine coughs, then catches. 70 horsepower. That is all you have. You roll forward. The Grasshopper lifts off after less than 200 feet. Below you, the jungle closes like a green ocean. Heat rises. The air smells of oil, wet leaves, and salt. You level off at 800 feet. Too low for safety. Too high for concealment. Your headset crackles. Static. Then a voice. Observer White, this is battery able. Ready for fire mission. You scan the terrain. Somewhere below, Japanese gunners wait. They know the jungle. They know how to hide. They believe they are invisible. Then you see it. A break in the canopy. Straight lines. Shadows that do not belong. You bank left. The Grasshopper shudders as small arms fire snaps upward. You hear it before you see it, the sharp cracking sound of bullets tearing through air and fabric. You keep flying. At 600 feet, you spot muzzle flashes. 3 guns. Probably 75mm field pieces. Dug in. Well camouflaged. You key the mic. Battery able, observer. Enemy artillery located. Grid follows. Your voice is calm because it has to be. Coordinates go out. Seconds pass. Shot over. You search the sky behind you. A white puff appears far off. Too far. Splash over. The shell explodes harmlessly in the jungle. Correction, you say. Left 200. Add 100. You circle. Each turn exposes you again. The Japanese gunners understand now. They stop firing at the ground. They fire at you. Tracers rise. Red lines claw upward. Your altitude drops. 500 feet. 400. 300. You smell burned powder. Another shell lands closer. Fire for effect, you say. This time there is no delay. 6 American guns open up. The sound reaches you a second later, a deep, rolling thunder. Shells crash down through palm trees and camouflage nets. Explosions walk across the position. 1 gun disappears. Then another. The third tries to escape. You follow it. At 200 feet you see men running. You mark them. Another correction. Another volley. Silence. The Japanese battery is gone. And you are still alive. This happens again. And again. And again. Over days and weeks, Grasshopper pilots become airborne ghosts. They appear where Japanese commanders believe no aircraft would dare to fly. They hover. They circle. They talk artillery onto targets with a precision that feels supernatural. Japanese officers interrogate prisoners. How are they finding our guns? They hear impossible answers. An airplane. Small. No guns. It flies low and does not attack. They do not believe it. Then comes late 1944. The invasion is massive. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of guns. Japanese artillery opens fire from hills overlooking the beaches. You're back in the air. Altitude, 700 feet. Speed, 80 miles per hour. Enemy fire, everywhere. You spot a battery firing into landing zones. Marines pinned down. Casualties mounting. You call it in. First salvo short. Second, long. Third, on target. At that moment your radio cuts out. Silence. You are alone, circling above angry ground fire with no way to talk. You dip the nose. You fly lower, 200 feet, until you can see American signal panels on the ground. You rock your wings. A signalman sees you. You point. He relays. The guns fire. The battery disappears in smoke. That night, Japanese commanders order something unprecedented. Shoot down the small planes first. They shift machine guns. They assign rifle squads specifically to hunt liaison aircraft. It does not work. The Grasshoppers are too slow to predict, too small to track, too numerous to stop. And now, everyone understands what you really are. You are not an observer. You are the trigger. What the Japanese did not understand, at first, was how completely the battlefield had changed. Artillery accuracy skyrockets. Fire missions that once took hours now take minutes. Hidden batteries no longer survive more than a few volleys. Entire defensive plans collapse because one unarmed airplane can see what jungle camouflage cannot hide. By 1944, American artillery doctrine formally integrates aerial forward observers. Grasshopper pilots become priority assets. Commanders request them by name. Infantry units refuse to move without one overhead. Japanese reports describe constant observation from low aircraft. Morale suffers. Gunners feel watched. They hesitate to fire. The true impact is measured in lives saved. Beaches cleared. Perimeters held. Advances accelerated. An entire category of warfare, air-directed artillery, is born not from advanced technology, but from courage, improvisation, and fabric wings. Bob White survives the war. He flies dozens of missions. He lands on beaches, roads, and clearings carved by hand. He never fires a weapon. He never needs to. After the war, the Grasshopper fades into obscurity. Jet aircraft take the spotlight. Precision munitions claim the credit. But to this day, every modern artillery observer, every drone operator, every airborne sensor, traces their lineage back to a small, slow plane over Pacific jungles. Back to pilots who broke the rule. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing these forgotten stories from the archives. If you want to join us on this mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or state and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that Bob White and the men of the U.S. Army liaison squadrons do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered,